Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 3rd of September and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, in the video we are going to take the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. Fine. And guys, I would like to tell you that meanwhile you can download this explainer PDF, as this explainer PDF contains all the synoptic notes of the articles that we are going to take. You can follow these synoptic notes meanwhile. Fine. So guys, let's start with the newspaper analysis. First we'll be taking the overview of the entire newspaper to understand that which articles are important. Okay, good morning Meenu, Hardik, good morning Songam, Naishod, good morning everybody. Now, so first article, Supreme Court grants interim bail to Tista till Gujarat High Court takes up the petition. So guys, this particular case was going on where basically it has been provided that the activist she was alleged of the fabrication of some kind of an evidences, and for that particular thing the bail was denied over last few weeks, but now it has been given, interim bail has been given by the Supreme Court. However, you don't need to go in this particular article with respect to the examination. India to host Quad senior officials meet next week. So the quadrilateral security dialogue, in which there are the India, Japan, Australia and USA. So high level meet will be happening next week. Okay, so when it will happen, we'll see that what are the takeaways. Then Vikrant is a reflection of self-reliant India. So guys, now we can see this particular thing, that the first indigenous aircraft has been commissioned in the Navy. So we'll see this particular article. After that, the political articles etc. has been given, not important. So the same things have been carried into the city section also. Then here, counting curses by men folk. So guys, this particular article will see with respect to a case study which can be used in GS paper number 1 and GS paper number 4. Then the advertisements, regional issues etc. have been given. So directly we'll be reaching to the editorial page. On the editorial, the first article, relief rebuff. So guys, this article, it is talking about the bail plea that has been signed. So the same article has been there. The NPT is beginning to look shaky. So we'll see why, because this recently the NPT's review meet has happened. So we'll see the takeaways out of that. Then India cyber infrastructure. So guys, we'll be seeing that what are the shortcomings into the India's cyber security infrastructure and what could be the way forwards. All those things we'll see here. Wind in the sail. So this article talks also about again the commissioning of INS Vikrant. Then moving on, delay, debt and distress in West Bengal. So guys, today, the Saturday, this ground zero report comes, and this ground zero report talks about the personal stories, personal accounts of the people suffering in some kind of a crisis or such kind of a thing. For UPSC, the article doesn't contain much of academic substance. Then moving on, so today Saturday, we don't have the text and the context page. Okay, now here again, basically the political news etc. has been carried, moving on in this particular direction. So guys, much relevant articles are not there on this particular page. However, here we can see one important article that has come is about the special maternity leave that has been given in case of the infant death. So guys, with respect to that maternity benefit act and all those things we are going to see. After that, moving on, paddy cultivation sees a decline. So guys, a 5.62% decrease have been there in the area. Now basically when we talk about the cropping patterns, guys, you need to understand that when we talk about India has the highest net sown area. India has the highest net sown area. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the area under the paddy cultivation, okay, it has been there in there has been a decline in that particular thing. However, decline is around 5.62%. okay, so this is though the decline has been substantial in terms of absolute numbers, but still guys, these kind of evolutionary patterns they persist. Moving on, after that, children spread their wings in the new game. So guys, this article is nothing but just here you can see that a flashcard has been designed by this particular foundation, that is the Early Bird Foundation. Now what this particular flashcard is, it will educate the children about the bird species, the native bird species that are there in India. Then moving on, Supreme Court dismisses plea to make Sanskrit a national language. It has been said by the Supreme Court that it is a policy issue. So therefore government should see in this particular matter and not the judiciary. Then moving on, After that, G7 agrees to implement the price cap on Russian oil. So we'll see this particular article, that how the G7 is collectively acting against the Russia in this particular capacity, and what will be the implication on Russia, all these things. Chinese investment in sea cucumber farms kicks off the concern in Sri Lanka. So guys, we'll see this article with respect to the implications on Sri Lanka. We'll see that, and the sea cucumber, okay, we'll see them with respect to the prelims examination also. Then moving on, effect of rate increase unclear, Verma. So basically an MPC member had provided this thing, that in the past few days there have been the repo rate has been increased, and how that repo rate will be impacting the Indian economy right now, it's not very clear. Over the few days we'll be seeing that particular thing, we'll be analyzing the impacts that will come. Because guys, understand all this particular thing, that right now Indian economy is in a peculiar situation, where on one hand the inflation is very much high, and on to the another hand we need to bring the growth also. Now to bring the growth, you go for the easy monetary policy. However, to control the inflation, you go for tight monetary policy. Now how to balance that thing? India US inflation differential to back rupee. So we'll see this particular article again in the exam. G7 agree to cap to price caps system of Russian oil. So that particular article also will be seeing. And then guys, moving on, okay, June quarter GDP data signals lower trend growth. Okay, so guys, see, yesterday already we have taken one particular article on the Indian economy, where we have seen that the growth forecast has been given on Indian economy. NSO has given, RBI has given the growth forecast. Okay, now understand this particular thing, that guys, when we are talking about these growth forecast and all these kind of things, you need to see them, but you don't need to memorize these kind of data, because they will be changing as over the coming months, as the economic activity will change. Then after that, the corporate issues etc has been provided, not important for the examination. And then we have the sports page. Okay, and now guys, understand one particular thing with respect to the sports section. It's that majorly in the sports section, the articles related to, or the news related to the cricket, okay, cricket matches etc that goes on, these things are not important for UPSC examination. Why? Because in the past such question has not been asked. Just 2 years back there were 1 or 2 questions that were asked, but actually guys, we cannot call it as a trend. So understand this particular thing, that in UPSC you always need to have a cost to benefit analysis always in your mind. You cannot simply read everything that is available on the internet, everything that is available on the earth. You need to be little bit smart in that capacity. So always follow this cost benefit analysis while you are going for your preparation. So in that capacity, following such kind of every sports news etc are not very much important. Why? Because UPSC examinations pattern is something like that. Now let's discuss all these relevant articles one by one in the detail. And guys, meanwhile, I'll again insist that please download this PDF, explainer PDF. You can find the link in the Telegram channel. Okay, you can find the Telegram link in the description box. Now today we'll take the quotation from Fumzile Imlambo. Now Fumzile Imlambo, she says this particular thing, that she's a feminist thinker. She has been always an ardent advocate for the women rights. She says that there is no great force for change, for peace, for justice and for democracy, for inclusive growth than a world of empowered women. So if you empower the women, if you provide all the avenues of justice to the women, it automatically will be bringing a world which is better suited for change, a world which has peace, the world where democratic institutions are strengthened. Okay, so guys, this particular quotation can be used in GS paper number 2, issues related to the women, as well as in essay. There have been many essays on the theme of the gender issues. So there also such quotation can be utilized. So GS2 essays, and even in GS paper number 4 there could be an indirect application of such kind of ideas. So that's all about the quotation. And now let's take the first article. Okay, so here we have clubbed the 2 articles, one from the page number first and the other article is from the editorial section, and both of these 2 articles are talking about the commissioning of the INS Vikrant, India's first indigenously built aircraft carrier. Okay, so we'll see this particular article. Now guys, understand that before going in this particular article, you need to understand some of the background, and after understanding this particular background, you'll be able to make sense that what's the relevance of this particular development. Now, number 1 guys, understand this thing, that India is aspiring to be a regional power. India is aspiring to be a regional power. Okay, India is aspiring to be a regional power, and in that particular capacity, first of all, we want to become a might in the Indo-Pacific region. We want to become a power in the Indo-Pacific region, and after the Indo-Pacific region, India aspires to be a superpower. India aspires to be a superpower in the near future. Now, guys, to be a regional power, to be a superpower, the capabilities of the Navy are very much important. There is a concept of blue power, there is a concept of blue water navy. Blue water navy. Now, what's this blue water navy? Blue water navy is a state, basically blue water navy tag is given to those countries whose navy has a presence in most of the oceans, in most of the waters, in most of the seas. Now, guys, understand this particular thing. To have the presence in most of the waters, what we need to have? We need to have the aircraft carriers. Now, what is the purpose of this particular aircraft carrier? Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that when the operations are to be carried, when the surveillance are to be carried, okay, when basically when the supervision is to be carried onto the oceans, the aircrafts that they have, they don't have much of a range, and in therefore basically they need to have certain place where they can replenish, where they can land, where they can dock. So these aircraft carriers act like the floating islands. So these floating islands accommodate the aircrafts when they will be hovering on the seas. So basically, if a country has aircraft, by that particular thing, the reach or the supervision over the oceans, over the waters increases manifold. In that capacity, aircraft carriers are very much crucial. Moreover, guys, understand that India is not aspiring to just be a regional power or the power in the Indo-Pacific, but India also wants to ensure the regional security of the other countries also. In that particular capacity, India is already running the Sagar initiative. India is already running the Sagar initiative. Now, what does this particular Sagar initiative stands? Sagar initiative stands for, just a minute. Now, the Sagar initiative, okay, it stands for security and growth for all in the region. Security and growth for all in the region. Okay, now therefore when we are running the Sagar, that is the security and growth for all in the region, in that capacity also India needs to have inbuilt capabilities, and here the aircraft carrier, it is going to fit. Now, guys, when we talk about the aircraft carrier, okay, in this particular capacity, guys, understand this particular thing, that India's ambition, Indian Navy's ambition is to have 3 aircraft carriers. Now already we have the INS Vikramaditya. Now, INS Vikramaditya was procured earlier from the Russia. So we have the INS Vikramaditya. Now the INS Vikrant. Now INS Vikrant has been inducted. There was also one more earlier, that was the INS Virat, but the INS Virat got decommissioned. So right now we have the 2 aircraft carriers. One is the INS Vikramaditya. Right now we have 2 aircraft carriers. One is the INS Vikramaditya, okay, and apart from that, now this is the INS Vikrant that got inducted. Is it clear or not? So, guys, with this particular thing, India has also achieved one more feat. What India has done, India has entered into the elite group of countries which have capability to design their own aircraft carriers. So what has happened? India has inducted into the group of elite countries such as the US, UK, Russia, France, China. Now these countries have capability to design and build their own aircraft carriers, and India has also built and demonstrated this particular technology. Now this particular development also points to the self-reliance or the Atmanirbharta that India has achieved into the defense sector. Moreover, guys, when we talk about this aircraft carrier, 76% of the components into the aircraft carrier, that is the INS Vikrant, they have been the indigenously procured components. So understand this particular thing, that our reliance onto the foreign countries have been reduced a lot. But at the same time, the critical technologies that have been used, these critical technologies have been imported. Hardware has been procured, majority of them around 76% in India, but the technologies have been imported. However, over a period of time, that particular thing also India will manage to in source. Then moving on in this particular direction. So guys, when we talk about this particular aircraft carrier, fine, it has a endurance of 7500 nautical miles. Now what's this concept of endurance? So guys, endurance, it simply means that for how long a ship can operate without coming back to replenish and all such kind of things. So it has endurance of 7500 nautical miles. It means that it can take operation of 7500 nautical miles, and for such a period it can stay offshore. So this is which is a very big engineering achievement that India has achieved. Moreover guys, understand that apart from this aircraft carrier, many of the technological spin-offs India has also achieved. For example, manufacturing of the warship grade steel. Now warship grade steel, it is not a normal steel, because guys, such kind of a steel has to withstand the corrosion, it has to withstand the adversities into the water. Earlier India was importing the warship grade steel, but now India has developed even the capability to manufacture it in house. Then moving on, after that particular thing guys, basically it has been provided that now the expertise that India has gained from building the Vikrant, it could also be used to build one more indigenous aircraft carriers, and with that India will have 3 aircraft carriers: the Vikrant that has been inducted, the Vikramaditya which is existing that we procured from Russia, and one more will be developed, and this particular thing will further be enhancing the Indian Navy's capabilities. And guys, again the same point I'll repeat, that it will help in achieving the India's interest into the open and inclusive Indo-Pacific and India's goal of Sagar. Moreover, understand this particular thing guys, that right now we are seeing this particular thing, that the Chinese footprint has also been increased into the Indo-Pacific region, Indian Ocean region. So in order to confront that Chinese footprint also, the INS Vikrant that we have inducted, it will be helping us. Okay, now understand this particular thing guys, that on this INS Vikrant there are multiple types of aircrafts that could be docked. So 30 aircrafts. Now a little bit about the factual information about this particular development. So on this particular aircraft carrier, 30 fighter aircrafts can be docked. Okay, MiG-29Ks, Kamov, MH-60R choppers, all of these particular aircrafts can be basically docked here. Okay, it has a capacity to house 1600 crews. Okay, it has 2300 compartments. Specific compartments for the women are also there in this particular aircraft carrier. This is the maximum speed. However, these maximum speed etc., such things are not important for UPSC examination. Okay, then guys, medium range surface to air missiles can be docked on this particular aircraft carrier. Okay, then it has a fully functional hospital with a CT scan, okay, operation theaters. So basically it is war ready, combat ready kind of an aircraft or aircraft carrier. Clear? Then guys, understand this particular thing, that further you so now the length of the ship, okay, width of the ship, height of the ship, these are not something very much important, so you need not to be bothered on this particular thing. Okay, so this is the capabilities of the Indian aircraft carrier. Okay, moreover, understand this particular thing, that guys, as India is now inducting the Rafale jets from the France and many such kind of state of the art aircrafts, for that particular thing also there have to be little bit of structural changes that have to be made in this INS Vikrant. So that particular thing will be taken over a period of time. However, in total it is a very important and a very monumental development that India has achieved, and it will enhance the capabilities of Indian Navy. So that's all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood all these particular issues. Now guys, beyond that you don't need to go and see that okay, on which date the development of this aircraft started, on which date what happened. All those things are not important. So whatever we have read here, all the strategic dimension, all the other dimensions, for example to prelims, for example from point of view of prelims, have been taken. Now moving to the next article. Counting curses by menfolk to keep toxicity at bay. Fine. So this particular article guys, here we'll be seeing one case study. Here we'll see this particular article with respect to the case study, and such case study can be used in GS paper number 1, that is the social issues Indian society, and this case study can also be used in the GS paper number 4, ethics. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that first of all, before going in this case study, you need to understand some of our background. So there are many of the social evil that are existing in the Indian society, and guys, in order to counter these social evils, bringing a law, punishing the people, or detaining the people, putting people in jail, it is not a solution, and that is even not proportionate. For example, what are the social evils? Social evil, for example, abusing the women. For example, abusing the women, disrespecting the women. Okay, abusing the women and disrespecting the women. There is the sense of patriarchy, the sense of toxic masculinity that appears in the society. Now, these kind of things can only be addressed by sensitizing the people, and for sensitization of people, we use ICE. We use ICE, that is information, communication, education. Information, communication, education. So ICE will be bringing sensitization. It will be bringing the sensitization, and through sensitization these social evils could be fought. Now guys, this sensitization needs innovative strategies. Okay, now in this particular direction, this particular article will be taken as a case study. So basically what has happened, Selfie with the Daughter Foundation has launched an innovative campaign in the UP, Uttar Pradesh, to keep a check on the profane languages. Now understand this particular thing. First of all, when we talk about this particular organization, that is a Selfie with the Daughter, this organization has been praised by the Prime Minister, and this particular organization for the first time started the Selfie with the Daughter campaign in the Jind district of Haryana. Now understand guys, we are running the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, and the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program got the inspiration from this Selfie with the Daughter program that was started by the Selfie with the Daughter Foundation. Moreover, this Selfie with Daughter Foundation had also started many other notable initiatives also. For example, the initiative of Lado Panchayats. Now, what are the Lado Panchayat? Lado Panchayats are the panchayats which are headed by the women, and where the decisions are taken by the women for the women's well-being, and they are accepted by other male members of the society also very gracefully. So the Lado Panchayat, it is a very positive and a very good example where the women are being brought into the decision making. They are raising the matters for the women. So the initiative of Lado Panchayat has also been started with this Selfie with the Daughter Foundation. So there are two notable initiatives earlier. That is Selfie with the Daughter initiative, which inspired the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. Fine. And then the second is the Lado Panchayat, where the women are being given an important role into the decision making. And now after that, the third initiative now that they have taken is the campaign, where now guys, what will be happening here? So many number of times male, they use curse words, they use curse words, they abuse. Now they might not be abusing to any one particular member in the family, they might be abusing or using the curse word in general sense, but always the women are demeaned, always these words are oriented towards women. So therefore, in this particular capacity, now they have come out with the initiative where a chart will be put up in the houses, and the number of times a male will be abusing, that entry will be made in that particular chart. Okay, so the members of the family in a day will be marking and will be counting. Now this particular thing will sensitize the male that how many number of times they might not be even knowingly abusing, and will be using, and they might be using these cuss words, and how they are derogatory, how they are demeaning to the women. Now that particular thing, what it will be addressing, it will be giving a conscious realization, to the male that how such kind of a things bring a bad impact on their children, how it brings a bad impact on their children, how it builds a toxic environment into the family. And guys, by this particular thing, an awareness will be generated. Now understand this particular thing guys, I want to give little bit, I will be going little bit off track, and I want to give you little bit reference from the ethics, because that is the subject which I teach personally. Now in the ethics, the Socrates has given the theory of moral intellectualism. He has given the theory of moral intellectualism. In moral intellectualism, the Socrates says that the people do bad because they don't know what is good, or people are doing bad because they don't know that it is bad. If we tell people that such thing is bad, if we make them realize that what they are doing is evil, what they are doing is unethical, they'll stop doing that particular thing. So realization of bad is the most important thing to make a person ethical. This is provided by the Socrates in his theory of moral intellectualism. So therefore guys, such kind of an effort is being made, even I think, in this particular initiative also. So this is something, a good development, by which the male will be by which what will be happening, the women will be keeping a account of the curse words that have been used by the males, and then the male might be getting realizing of the how they have been creating such toxic environment. Moreover, guys, this particular foundation has taken one more initiative also, that is the initiative of period chart. Now, what is this period chart? So basically, in this period chart, they have launched a kind of a period chart in which the date of the start of the menstruation will be noted every month. So for example, the date on which the women started menstruation, that particular date will be noted. A kind of a log, a kind of a diary, or a kind of a record will be maintained. Now, why this particular thing is important? Guys, understand this particular thing, that many a number of times the male, they don't know about the female's menstrual cycles. They don't know about the issue of the menstruation, and because of that thing, there are many of the misinformation, many of the taboos that are existing in the society. So from the nascent age, from the young age, even the boys should be knowing about the menstruation. They should be knowing that how it is a natural process, and it should not be considered as a taboo. So for that particular thing, this period chart has been started, where the entries will be made and it will be kept into the open, so even the male can see, and male don't just make it as a taboo. So that's all which has happened. So guys, though in this particular article, though basically there is a lot of symbolic gestures, there is a lot of information that can be used indirectly in GS1 and GS paper number 4. So please take the key message here. I hope it's clear, and now we'll be moving to the next article. India's cyber infrastructure needs more than patches. Okay, so this particular article will be taking with respect to the GS paper number 3, issues of internal security. Within the internal security, in the topic of cyber security, will take this particular issue. Now, so basically the article talks about this thing, that over the years there have been the rise in the cyber crime. Now obviously we are adopting the mobile technologies. Even now the 5G is being rolled out. The Jio had said that around the Diwali they will be rolling out the 5G. So with the adoption of internet, IT technologies, with the increased mobile penetration, the cyber crimes have been increased. Now in that particular capacity, there is some data according to the NCRB, that is the National Crime Record Bureau. The cyber crime cases increased from around 12,000 in 2016 to more than 50,000 in 2020. So this is nearly threefold increase that has happened into the cyber crimes, even more than that. Now understand this particular thing, guys. Basically the capacity of the enforcement agencies, the capacity of the enforcement agencies to fight the cyber crimes, to solve these particular issues, have been very much limited. Much substantial improvement has not happened. Now when we talk about, guys, the police and the public order, it is mentioned into the state list. So therefore the primary responsibility of maintaining the public order, even when it is being disturbed by the cyber technologies, it is under the purview of the state government. However, at the same time, there is IT Act of 2000, and then there are many of the major other central legislations also. There are organizations such as the CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team India. So there are organizations such as the CERT that is the Computer Emergency Response Team India. Now these organizations work under the ministry, under the union government. So therefore union government, through IT Act, through the organizations such as the CERT, and through many other organizations, also has a responsibility to make sure that in India the cyber security is taken care of. So both the state and the center have responsibility in this particular direction. Moreover, recently the Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, I4C, Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, I4C, was started by the Ministry of Home Affairs to deal with all the cyber crime related issues, the issues of identity theft, issues of scams, fine online scandals, all these things. So this was done. Now guys, this particular thing was also done to plug the infrastructural deficit. Many times infrastructure, software, hardware are not there. So to deal with all this particular thing, IC4 initiative has been started. So in total, both center and the state governments are doing their part of responsibility to deal with this particular issue. But at the same time, guys, we find this particular thing that still there are a lot of gaps, still there are a lot of problems. There is no separate procedural code for investigation of the cyber or computer related offense. Now guys, understand that we have, for example, CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. Okay, we have Criminal Procedure Code, but do we have a cyber crime procedure code, a specific such kind of legislation, such kind of a document such kind of a law? No, we don't have that particular thing. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the electronic evidence, it is different from the physical evidence. For example, let's say that there is a murder that has been committed, and on that particular the crime scene, let's say a knife was recovered or some bullet shells were recovered. Now that is a physical evidence. That physical evidence has admissibility into the court of law. How to present them, okay, what force they have, all that particular thing has been very clearly defined in the CRPC and other laws. But electronic evidence, for that particular thing, we don't have any such kind of a regime. Now guys, understand this particular thing, electronic evidence, okay, for that particular thing we don't have much of the laws. Now in this particular capacity, in the Arjun Pandit Rao Khatokar case, what happened, the Supreme Court held that the certificate under the Indian Evidence Act was a mandatory prerequisite for the admissibility of the electronic record. Now understand, we have Indian Evidence Act, which is a specific legislation which provides that which kind of evidences will be taken in court of law, which type of evidences will not be taken in the court of law. For example, guys, understand this particular thing, that if any news report, if in any newspaper something got published, that particular thing might not be having the admissibility into the court of law. Judge might not entertain that. Why? Because under the Indian Evidence Act, it has been provided what would be admitted, what will not be admitted. Now it has been provided that, for example, a cyber crime happened, and for that cyber crime, if electronic evidence, if digital evidence is being given, then for that particular thing, there needs to be the admissibility of electronic record, a certificate that needs to be taken under the Indian Evidence Act. Is it clear or not? Under Indian Evidence Act, a certificate has to be taken. So this is something that has been provided. Now guys, the guidelines for the identification, collection, acquisition and preservation of digital evidence, for that particular thing, what type of evidence will be preserved, how, in what manner they are needed to be maintained, for that thing, the Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS, has issued the guidelines, okay. But guys, still much of the work on the digital evidences, much of the clarity on digital evidences is still not there. Now in 2018, one major development also happened. What happened? A 5-judge committee, it was constituted to frame the rules for the reception of digital evidences by court. Clear? Now this particular committee has recommended that the draft rules for the reception, retrieval, authentication and preservation of electronic records. Okay, so it give a kind of a draft rules. These draft rules solved and provided all the actually addressed all the issues with respect to the digital evidence. But till now, these rules have not been given a statutory shape. They have not been framed in a law by the parliament. Clear? This is something that has happened. So therefore, guys, these are all the issues. After that, there are also many other problems that are emerging. For example, there are the half-hearted efforts by the states to recruit technical staff for the investigation of cyber crime. Now understand this particular thing, that regular police officers, majority of them are from the humanities background, where they have read about the history, geography and all such kind of things. Many times they are not equipped to deal with the technicalities of the cyber crimes. So therefore, we need to appoint more and more technical staff. However, the state governments has not been very much active on that particular capacity. Then after that, it has been provided that there could be also entirely separate cyber police stations that are to be established into every district. Now there are cyber police stations, but they are not in every district. Their accessibility many number of time is very much restricted, and in many of the tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are entirely sometimes the cyber police stations entirely missing. So we need to make sure that in every district such police station needs to be there, or if not possible, then in the existing police stations there needs to be a separate wing. Okay, there needs to be technically qualified station within the existing police stations. Then after that, it's been provided that the IT Act of 2000, okay, basically the IT Act of 2000 provides that in any case where the cyber crime has been happened, that case will be that case will be investigated by the police inspector. Okay, a person at the rank of police inspector will be investigating such cases. But understand, there is a very much deficiency of the police officers at the rank of the inspector. So what we need to do, moreover, the police inspectors, they have many other other pressures, other work related pressures also. So it has been provided to ease the burden. Even the officer at the rank of sub inspector needs to be made eligible to take up the investigation of the cyber crimes. Then after that, next thing that has been provided is that the cyber forensics labs of the state must need to be upgraded with the new technologies. They are obsolete, they have old redundant technologies, so their technological upgradation is very much important. Now understand, government is coming with the many new initiatives, digital initiatives. For example, recently government announced that it will be coming out with the digital rupee, which will be backed on the blockchain technology. Now when this digital rupee will come, this digital rupee will be transferred, this digital rupee will be stored in digital wallet. What will happen around this particular thing? Cyber crimes will further increase. So to deal with these new age challenges, we further need to upgrade the cyber security, their technical base. They are needed to be given technical tools. Then understand this particular thing. Basically, now when we talk about the state cyber labs, they can today analyze the hard disk of a computer, they can analyze the mobile phone, but they are not have been notified as examiner of electronic evidence. Okay, so basically guys, they have not been given this particular certification, and in that capacity still the admissibility of the electronic records will be limited. Moreover, understand that when we talk about the cyber crimes, many of the cyber crimes are transnational cyber crimes. It means that the cyber criminal, a hacker, it's sitting, let's say, in Russia, it's sitting in US, it's sitting in any other such kind of a country. So cyber crimes are transnational. Fine, in that capacity there will be sometimes extraterritorial jurisdiction that will be coming. So guys, we need to have the collaboration, we need to have cooperation with the countries of the world as how such transnational crimes can be taken care of. Moreover, apart from that, data localization feature also needs to be implemented. Now what is data localization? Data localization, guys, actually now, for example, your data is being collected, let's say, by Amazon, your data is, let's say, collected by the Google. Now all that particular data is physically being stored into the server which are located outside the India. So that in that particular capacity, what happens, India doesn't has the physical control over the data. In the data localization, we provide that any data, if it is being collected from the Indians, their physical servers should be located within India. So guys, by the data localization also, India will get a much access over the data, and by that data we can identify that who has been the perpetrator of a crime. So that is something that will help. Then guys, understand, one more point has been given in this particular article. See, the police still gets the cyber tipline reports on online child sexual abuse material from the USA's non-profit agency, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So with respect to the children's sexual abuse, with respect to the crimes against them, we are dependent on USA. Okay, so therefore it has been provided that now India should develop its in-house capacity, okay, in-house capacity to have such kind of information onto the on such kind of an offenses. So these are certain suggestions that have been given, and guys, I think that a new dimension is being provided in this particular article, that is the dimension on the admissibility of the digital evidence. So this is a good point. Please do note down these particular issues, and towards the last, all the issues that have been provided into the cyber technology, cyber crime, these things can readily be used in the answers. So that's all about this article. Now we'll move to the next article. The NPT is beginning to look shaky. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, international issues. GS paper number 2, international issues. Okay, now first of all, let me tell you little bit of the background of this particular article. So guys, recently what has happened, 10th review conference of the parties to the treaty on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons was concluded. So basically what has happened, 52 years have been concluded by the NPT treaty, that is the non-proliferation treaty. Clear? Now guys, when we talk about the non-proliferation treaty has been created in order to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapon technology, as well as it also promotes the cooperation for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Okay, it promotes the nuclear disarmament, general disarmament as well as a complete disarmament. Understand this particular thing, guys. Basically what happened during 1960s, nuclear technologies became a kind of a very evident force. Okay, by that particular time USA has perfected the nuclear technologies. Many other countries were also working actively into the nuclear technologies. At that point of a time, this thing got discovered that if nuclear technologies will fall in the wrong hands, then it might become a threat for the entire humanity. So therefore a treaty was negotiated in 1968. The treaty was negotiated in 1968, and this particular treaty called as the NPT, non-proliferation treaty. In this non-proliferation treaty, it was provided that there should not be any undue proliferation of the nuclear weapons. There should not be undue proliferation of the nuclear technologies. It should not land in the wrong hands. Is it clear or not? In that particular capacity, there were very much restrictions. There were a lot of bans that were imposed onto the countries, that they cannot go for the research into the nuclear weapons, they cannot go for the nuclear testing. In this particular, along with that, there are other treaties also came. For example, the CTBT came. CTBT stands for Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Now Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty even banned the testing of the nuclear weapons by many number of countries, particularly the non-nuclear weapon states. So this NPT was opened in 1968 for signature. It talked about non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It talks about disarmament and all such kind of things. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that after every 5 years, the review of this particular NPT happens. Up till now 10 reviews of the NPT have happened, and recently the 10th review of NPT got conducted. So on that particular line, we'll be seeing this particular article. So I hope this background is clear. First of all, when we talk about the NPT was opened for signature in 1968 and it entered in force in 1970. So when it entered in force in 1970, by that particular logic, 52 years have been completed. Now guys, the 4 countries have not signed the NPT. Why? So what countries? India, Israel, Pakistan, South Sudan. They have never signed this particular treaty. Now why India has not signed the treaty? Because India said NPT is discriminatory. It divides the world between the nuclear haves and nuclear have not. And the countries such as the US, the countries such as India, they have been put into the nuclear have nots. It has been said that countries such as the US, UK, Russia, they are the countries which have been given a lot of power on the nuclear technologies, but India and such countries find which have no good background, they have not been given the equal treatment. So therefore, because India feels it is discriminatory, India has not signed the NPT till now. Now understand this particular thing, guys. Understand that the 2022 review of the NPT that happened, it is important because it was a second review conference after 2015 where no substantial outcome was received. Understand this particular thing, guys. Basically, since 1970, I told you that NPT reviews are happening, but by that, only 4 of the 10 reviews concluded with the consensus document. Now, consensus document, what it means? Basically, many issues are brought under the NPT. For example, disarmament. For example, how nuclear technologies can be controlled. For example, the safeguards that are to be brought onto the nuclear technologies. So a consensus is to be reached. Now many a number of times the consensus is not able to be reached into the NPT conference, and the same thing has happened recently into the 10th conference also. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the 2022 review conference, how it is different from the past conferences. So understand this particular thing. Basically, into the past also there has been the divergences between the NPT, but these divergences were between the nuclear haves and nuclear have nots. For example, Iran, Israel, West Asia, and the nuclear haves. For example, the USA, UK, Russia. Now US, UK, Russia, these are the nuclear haves. They were on the one side and nuclear have nots were on the another side. But now in 2020, a kind of a different pattern has emerged. What different pattern? Now the nuclear, basically now the West got pitted against Russia. Earlier, they were in the same group. Now, the West and Russia are pitted against each other. Why? Because of the Ukraine war that is going on. Now, in this particular capacity, guys, in 2022, there was one issue, that is how to resolve the nuclear safety crisis at the nuclear power plants in Ukraine. Now, understand this issue. as the Russia-Ukraine war is going on, Russia had entered in the Ukraine, and many of the Ukraine's important nuclear plants right now are under the Russian custody. So how to ensure their safety? This particular issue was brought into the NPT, but it did not got resolved. Why? Because the West and the Russia, between them a backlog, a kind of a deadlock is going on. Now, when we talk about the present times, there have been the developments in space, developments in cyber domains. Okay, now these particular developments have a lot of impact onto the nuclear weaponries also. For example, guys, with the coming of the cyber technologies and sophisticated cyber technologies, a person can virtually sitting in another part of a country can have control onto the weapons of the another country. So basically, the developments coming in space sector, developments coming in cyber domain, and these particular developments impact the weapon delivery also. So therefore, we need to make sure that the nuclear entanglement, the nuclear disputes that are there, they are needed to be resolved peacefully. Now guys, in this particular conference, the France, UK, US, they drew a distinction between irresponsible nuclear threats of offensive nature and responsible nuclear threats of defensive purpose. Okay. Now it has been provided that basically the Russia, it has, according to West, they have many times said that Russia and the countries such as China, though they have nuclear capabilities, though they have nuclear technologies, but they might use those technologies in such a way that it might create threat. So these are some issues that have been there, and as a whole, nothing came out of this 10th review meeting, and it ended in a kind of a deadlock. So that's all what has happened. Fine. And guys, with this we come to an end to this article. We'll now move to the next article. Now, special maternity leave in case of infant death. So guys, first of all, understand this particular thing, that as per the directive principle of state policy, the state or the government is entitled to give the special care to the people who are need in assistance, and in that particular capacity, the special need to the women is to be given. Now, further guys, understand this particular thing, that even the maternity care to the women is to be provided. It has been very clearly written in the directive principle of state policy. Now, recently India came with the Maternity Benefit Act, and India has expanded the paid maternity leave to the pregnant women. India has become the country where 26 weeks of paid maternity leave is given to the women working into the formal organized sector. Now 26 weeks, okay, now 26 weeks, it means around 6 months. So guys, India is in very few handful of countries which provide such a big maternity leave to the women, and this is a very progressive and developmental step that has been taken. Okay, now guys, understand there is one more issue that has come recently in the news. What about the women who has given the stillbirth? Now what is a stillbirth? Stillbirth means that delivering a child that was lifeless, delivering a lifeless child. What will happen in the case of stillbirth, and what will happen in case that the child was delivered and the child faced the mortality in first few days, let's say before 28 days, if the child faced mortality, in that case, will the maternity leave will be given to the women or not? So that particular controversy was there. Now guys, in that capacity, the DOPT, Department of Personnel and Training, DOPT, and the central government has clarified their situation. They have provided this particular thing that even when there is a stillbirth, or when a child has faced mortality after a few days, it can impact or can bring a big emotional trauma on the mothers, and therefore for that particular capacity also, a special maternity leave of 60 days needs to be given to the female central government servants, So not 26 weeks, but the 60 days of the paid maternity of the 60 days of the leave will be given. Fine. Now this particular leave will be given to the women central government servants, the ones who have less than 2 surviving children. If already there are 2 children or more than 2 children, then the leave will not be given, only will be given to the women who have less than 2 children. So this is something that has come in this particular direction. Now guys, on a whole, it is a important development, it is a positive development. Why? Because the women's special needs, women's special cares are being recognized in this particular issue. So that's all about it. And now we'll move to the next article. G7 agrees to implement price cap on Russian oil. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that you know that the Russia and Ukraine war is going on, and under this Russia Ukraine war there has been the division between the world. On one hand there is the West, led by the USA, and on another hand there is Russia, there is China. Now over the past few months we have seen this particular thing, that Russia had supplied their crude oil to many countries, even to India, even to Russia, even to China. Now the G7 countries, the group of 7 countries, the group of biggest economies, the developed economies, they have come together and they had imposed this particular a kind of a price cap on the Russian oil. They have said that beyond a particular price level, if Russia wants to increase the price of oil, they cannot do that particular thing. Now this, they are saying that it is to make sure that the oil prices stay in a sustainable number. So what has happened, the group of 7 advanced economies, G7, they implemented a price cap on the oil exports from Russia. Beyond this particular price cap, beyond this particular price level, they cannot export their oil. Now how this particular thing will be implemented? Basically, now if you talk about the London, fine, London in UK, it is a major global center for maritime insurance. Now understand this particular thing. Suppose any consignment is going through a ship, through a ship. So before that particular thing, the insurance has to be taken, because you know that many a times the containers, they fall, many a times there, let's say the ship might face some kind of a destruction, or many such issues are there. So taking an insurance for the ship is very much compulsory. And now when we talk about the London is a global center for maritime insurance, and it has been provided by London that if any consignment is being booked where the Russia is charging the oil prices above a particular cap, then those ships or those consignments will not be given an insurance, and in that capacity they will restrict such kind of things. Now guys, it has been provided that price cap. What price cap will be put? It will be decided after the technical inputs, and it will be revisited and as and when it is required. So the West is also trying to say that will not be unfair, will be deciding this price gap not arbitrarily but by taking technical inputs. So now the West has also provided this particular thing, that cooperation of India and China is very much important, because into the past India and China has procured the oil from the Russia even after the Russia-Ukraine war started. Moreover guys, though India actually has purchased the Russian oil at discounts, okay, we have not purchased above a particular cap, we have purchased at a discount, but the West says that there is a lot of assistance that will be required from the China as well as India to make this particular development a success. So that's all about this particular article guys, and now we'll move to the next article. Chinese investment in sea cucumber farm kicks off concerns in Sri Lanka. Now this particular article will see with respect to the prelims examination as well as with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues in India's neighborhood IR. So basically, first of all guys, I'll tell you a little bit about this particular article. So what has happened now, you know already that Sri Lanka, it is going through economic crisis, and in this economic crisis they need foreign assistance, they need foreign direct investment, they need the capital assistance from the other countries, and in that capacity the China is now coming in between. So what China has proposed, some of the corporations of the China, they are interested in harvesting the sea cucumber from the Sri Lanka. Now first of all, what is the sea cucumber? So guys, you can see in the picture the sea cucumber. So this sea cucumber, these are the marine invertebrates. These are not the plants. These are the marine invertebrates that live on the sea floor and are generally found onto the tropical region. Now these sea cucumbers, they are consumed a lot in the countries such as China. There are delicacy in the China, the countries such as the Singapore and all of them. So basically what had happened into the past, China is importing a lot of these sea cucumbers from the Sri Lanka. Okay, so these invertebrates, fine. Now invertebrates, they are those animals which don't have a fully developed spine. Now these invertebrates are consumed a lot into the China, and now the China are bringing their own investment. They will be developing the facilities where they will be harvesting these sea cucumbers. Okay, now this particular thing, first of all, it has become a concern in Sri Lanka. Why? Because the fishermen of the Sri Lanka, okay, they will see that this particular commercial aquaculture where the Chinese companies will be coming and the Chinese company, just a minute, where the Chinese corporations will harvest this sea cucumber, it will impact the livelihood of the Sri Lankan fishermen. It will impact the livelihood of the Sri Lankan fishermen. But the Sri Lankan fishermen also say this particular thing, that right now we need the foreign assistance for that particular thing we cannot even wholeheartedly oppose this particular thing. Now when we talk about the sea cucumbers, guys, you need to understand this particular thing, that these are the marine invertebrates. It means they are the marine animals. Okay, they don't have a fully developed spine. They are consumed as a delicacy in China, Singapore, and in many Southeast Asian countries. Now when we talk about the sea cucumbers, they are also an integral part of the coral ecosystem. Now understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the coral reefs, in the coral reefs, the coral gets connected with each other. How? Because of the calcium carbonate. So calcium carbonate act as a cementing agent which connects the corals with each other. Now basically these sea cucumbers, they stay in the ocean, and basically they digest the what happens, they digest the sand, and when they digest the sand, they release the calcium carbonate, and this calcium carbonate helps in cementing the corals together, and the coral reefs are built. So in the development of coral reefs, these sea cucumbers, they play a very important role, and therefore if there will be unsustainable harvest of these sea cucumbers, it might impact the corals ecosystem. Now on the IUCN red list, the brown sea cucumber has been put into the category of endangered. There are many varieties of sea cucumber, so particularly the brown sea cucumber has been put into the category of endangered, and as per the Wildlife Protection Act of 1971, the sea cucumbers are put in the schedule number 1, that is they enjoy a very high protection. Moreover, 2020 Lakshadweep Island Administration created the world's first conservation area for the sea cucumbers. So we India have preserved the sea cucumbers, China is consuming the sea cucumbers, and in order to harvest the sea cucumber, now the Chinese are bringing their investment into the Sri Lanka, because around the Sri Lankan coast, find in the region of Mannar, Park Bay, there are large sea cucumbers that are found. So this is something that will be happening. Now guys, there is a kind of a dilemma that has been created. Number one, it will bring the foreign investment which Sri Lanka needs, but at the same time the livelihood of the local fishermen will be impacted. So how to balance that is a dilemma right now in the Sri Lanka. So this is something that has come. Moreover, in that capacity, guys, what has happened, Sri Lanka provides this thing, that in the past they first gave the opportunity to India, that India should give them some technologies, or India should develop such kind of a commercial facility into the Sri Lanka for the harvest of the sea cucumbers, but India has not done anything. So therefore now China is coming out with their investment. So that's all about this particular article. Now we'll move to the next article. India US inflation differential to back rupee. Now basically, guys, understand this particular thing. Now we have seen that the rupee, now we have seen in the past that the rupee has declined a lot, and rupee recently has been basically 1 rupee in front of dollar valuation was 80. Okay, $1 equivalent to 80 rupees. Recently $1 became equivalent to 80 rupees. Now in this particular capacity, in USA's inflation has played a very important role. Basically what has happened, guys, over the past few 2 years, actually post 2020, what happened, the US's economy got impacted because of the lockdown. Now in order to bring the revival of the economy, what happened, the USA pumped a lot of money in the economy. By that particular thing, the growth was sustained. But when you pump a lot of money, it brings inflation, it brings the price rise. And recently we have seen that inflation in USA was 40-year high. Now controlling inflation has become a big challenge, and you might have read already in your economy that when we need to control the inflation, we need to control the money supply in the economy. And for that particular thing, the tight monetary policy is taken by a country. Even the interest rates are increased by the country. So what happened in the USA, because they wanted to control the inflation inflation in their own country, what USA did, USA increased the interest rate. So the central bank of the USA, that is the Federal Reserve of the USA, they increased the interest rates. By that particular thing, what happened, guys, in the past 2 years, whatever money came in India as an investment, the money came in India as an investment from the USA, particularly the FPI, foreign portfolio investment that came in India, that money started to go back to the USA because their interest rates increased. Now when the money is going back from India to USA, obviously everybody will convert their investment in dollar because they want to take dollar in the USA. So what happens, actually everybody was demanding the dollar, people did not need the rupee. So what happened, the price of the dollar became high and the rupee came down. Now understand this particular thing, that whenever you talk about any particular currency's valuation, it depends on to the demand and supply. So if one currency will be demanded more, its price will go up. If any currency's abundance is there, that particular currency's price will go down. So what happened in everybody was going to the USA, the investment that earlier came to the India, now they were going back, so they want to convert their investment in dollar. Everybody was demanding dollar, so rupee got impacted. So in a way, what happened, the inflation of US impacted the rupee fall in India. Okay, that was the issue. Now understand this particular thing, guys. India US inflation differential is now balancing out. Okay, this particular the differential is now balancing out. Now what has happened, in USA there was high inflation, they increased interest rates, money flew there. Now India also is increasing the repo rate because of the inflation is there. So basically what has happened, there are equal incentives in India also. So the differential between the inflation between the USA and between India is now balancing out, and that particular thing is making it is having a positive implication that India will now be stabilized. India will not be going too much down as it has happened in the past. Is it clear or not? So that is all, guys, about this particular thing. Okay, so I hope that you have understood it. Okay, so there is one question. So that is all about, guys, this particular article. Fine. So these are all the implications. Okay, so the rupee has depreciated nearly 7% this year because of the aggressive policies of the Federal Reserve, that is the Central Bank of USA, to curtail the inflation. Okay, but now the inflation differential is balancing out between the India and US, and this thing might now be solved. Okay. There's a one question, why government is imposing the angel tax on startups? It will affect the innovation in the country. As of now, we are only investing 0.8% of GDP on R&D, but why the government will take this stand? See, the angel tax has been imposed onto the startups because a lot of money was coming in the startups. Even when basically what has happened, the arbitrary valuations of the startup was fixed. A lot of money was coming into the startup. Many a times what has happened, the money that was sent, guys, you might there's one particular phenomena, that is the phenomena of the round tripping. What happens in round tripping? There was some Indian money that will send to some overseas market, and from that overseas market that money will come in India. Now this particular thing many time happens when the people want to convert their black money, when people want to convert their dirty money into the clean money. So in the money laundering, round tripping happens. The money comes from the foreign routes again to the India only. A large amount of money over the years have come into the startups. Fine, as a kind of a has come into the startups as an investment. On those investment, this angel tax is now being imposed, so that such kind of a phenomena could be deterred. Moreover, guys, understand this particular thing, that India is one of the largest startup ecosystem. We have biggest startup ecosystem, and a lot of money has been raised, and if that money is coming, government also deserves to earn revenue on that particular thing. So revenue augmentation is important, so therefore we have done that particular thing. So ready, Babu, I hope that this doubt is clear. So that's all about this particular discussion, guys, today. So today is Saturday. Now we'll be meeting back on Monday. So we take the initiative from Monday to Saturday, because Sunday is one day that you need to keep for your revision. So please, Sunday, revise all the week's current affairs. Moreover, on Sunday we don't have editorial section, then there are the leisure, such type of pages are there. In FAQ section, there are only the articles that have come in the past week, they are repeated. However, if there is any other important development that will come, I'll be taking that on Monday. So guys, please keep Sunday one day for revision, because without revision you will not be able to reproduce the content. So that's all about this particular thing, guys. Now we'll be meeting on Monday. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.